My dear friend, let me tell you something that I wish someone told me many years ago. Please listen with your heart, because what I am about to say may save you from the pain I went through. You see, trouble does not always come from strangers. Sometimes it walks through your front door, wearing the face of someone you love. And if it was you, my friend, what would you do? Would you trust the people you raised? Would you believe their soft words? Or would you look deeper and ask why their eyes suddenly feel cold? I made mistakes. I trusted too much. I believed lies because I wanted peace. And I do not want you to make the same mistakes I made. When I look back now, I see all the signs. The distance. The sudden kindness. The strange questions about my savings. The way they checked my drawers when they thought I was not watching. But at that time, I told myself, no, they would never hurt me. They love me. Why would they destroy their own mother's heart? But my dear friend, not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. Before I go deeper, please do something for me as a small thank you for sharing my story with you. If you enjoy real stories like this, simple stories from real people, please subscribe to this channel. Like the video. Comment your thoughts. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story. And tell me in the comments, which part of the country are you watching from? I would love to know. Now back to what happened. I was 65 years old. I lived alone in a quiet suburb outside a small American town. My days were peaceful. I watered my plants. I watched the birds in my yard. I cooked simple meals and talked on the phone with my younger son, David, who lived 3 hours away. But the peace did not last. It started with a phone call from Mark, my older son. He had not called me for months, not even on my birthday. His wife, Sarah, did not like me. She said I was too old-fashioned. She said I spoiled their children. She said I made Mark weak. So when Mark called and said, "Mom, can we come over for dinner?" my heart almost burst with joy. I thought, maybe they missed me. Maybe things will be good again. Maybe the family I prayed for is coming back. If only I knew what they were really planning. When they walked in that night, something felt strange. Their smiles were too bright. Their voices were too sweet. Sarah hugged me, but her hands were cold, like she did not want to touch me. We sat at the table. I served them roast chicken, potatoes, and warm bread. Just like I used to make when Mark was a little boy running around the kitchen. But they did not want my food. They did not want my love. They wanted something else. Mark put down his fork and said, "Mom, we need to talk." Sarah crossed her arms. Her eyes were sharp like glass. She said, "We know you have 50,000 in savings. And we need it. Now." My whole body froze. I felt the room spin. I could not breathe. My dear friend, tell me, if this was you, what would you do? Would you scream? Would you cry? Would you run? I sat there shaking while my own son told me that if I did not give him the money, he would take legal action. He said something was wrong with my late husband's will. He said they could block me from seeing my grandchildren. He said I owed them. I stared at him, wondering where my sweet boy had gone. Where was the child who held my hand at the grocery store? Where was the boy who used to cry when he scraped his knee? Where was the boy who told me, "Mom, you are my hero"? He was gone, and a stranger sat in his place. I wanted to protect him. I did not want him to go to jail. I did not want to fight him. So I did something foolish. Something I regret to this day. I told him I would transfer the money. Sarah smiled like she had just won a prize. She said, "Good choice. We knew you would do the right thing. But my dear friend, I was not as weak as they thought. I did not survive 65 years to be destroyed by greed." So that night, after they left, I sat at my small kitchen table and made a plan. I would pretend to transfer the money. I would buy time. I would protect myself. I texted Mark a screenshot of a fake transfer confirmation. I thought it would calm them, make them stop, let me breathe. But it did the opposite. The next evening, someone banged on my door so hard that the walls shook. I froze. My heart raced. Mark's voice screamed from outside. "Open the door. We know you lied. Open the door right now." I backed away from the door. I hid my phone in my pocket. I whispered, "Please God help me." The banging got louder. Then a crack. Then the sound of wood breaking. And that was when I realized the danger was not outside anymore. It was coming in. And it wanted me. My dear friend, if you have ever felt fear inside your own home, then you know the kind of cold that enters your bones and refuses to leave. That night, when I heard the wood snap and the door frame crack, I felt something inside me fall apart. The people breaking into my home were not strangers. They were not criminals from the streets. They were not masked men looking for money. It was my own son. And his wife. People I once trusted with my life. The door burst open and Mark stormed inside with eyes that did not look like the boy I raised. His hands were shaking. His face was red with anger. Sarah followed him, her voice sharp and cruel. She shouted, "You lied. Where is the money you promised? You think you can fool us?" I stepped back until my back touched the wall. My legs felt weak. My hands shook so much I had to hide them behind me. Mark came closer. "Mom, why would you do this? Why would you lie to us? We need that money. Do you want us to lose everything?" But I knew it was not about saving anything. It was about greed. About power. About control. My dear friend, let me ask you again. If this was you, what would you do? Would you scream? Would you fight? Would you beg? I did none of those. I stayed silent. I watched them walk around my home like they owned it. Mark opened drawers. Sarah looked under cushions. They searched like wolves hungry for food. I whispered, "Mark, please just stop." But Sarah turned suddenly. She pointed a finger at me. "You had one job. Send the money. Now you will pay for wasting our time." Her words hit me harder than any slap. She looked at me like I was less than human. Mark grabbed my arm. Not gently like a son. Not kindly like a family member. But rough. Cold. Like someone who had forgotten who I was. He said, "Give me your phone. Right now. We will transfer it ourselves." My heart pounded so loudly, I thought they could hear it. I said, "No, please, it is my money." His grip tightened. "Mom, I am not asking. I am telling you. My dear friend." In that moment, I understood something painful. When someone is desperate, they stop seeing you as a person. They only see what they can take from you. I tried to pull back, but Sarah stepped forward and shoved me. I fell against the table. A bowl crashed to the floor. I felt a sharp pain in my hip. My breath broke. My vision blurred. But when I looked up, I saw Mark's face. And for a moment, I saw something else. Fear. Shame. Maybe guilt. But he didn't stop. He was too far gone. He grabbed my phone from the counter. He opened my banking app. He tried to enter my passcode. But he couldn't. I had changed it that afternoon. I had changed everything because a small voice inside me whispered, "Protect yourself." Sarah grew angrier. She shouted, "Break the phone. Break it so she has nothing left to hide." Mark raised it like he would smash it. And that was the moment, my dear friend, when something inside me changed. Something old woke up inside me. Something strong. Something I thought I had lost years ago. I reached into my pocket. My fingers touched my emergency phone. A tiny phone I kept hidden for safety ever since I became a widow. I pressed one button. Just one. It called the police automatically. I did not say a word. I did not shout. I did not run. I stood still and watched as Mark raised my phone higher. He was shaking now. I could see that he did not want to do this. But he also did not want to stop. Then Sarah yelled, "Do it. We need her to stop fighting us. Just end this." And that was the moment everything changed. Not because of me. Not because of Mark. Not because of Sarah. But because of a sound. A loud voice outside. A man shouting. A flashlight in the window. Police. Police. Everyone stepped back. Mark froze. Sarah looked around like a trapped animal. I whispered, "You need to stop." But they did not listen. They ran. They pushed past me. They tripped over the broken bowl. They slipped on the rug. They stumbled as they tried to escape through the back door. But it was too late. The back door opened. A police officer stood there. Another ran into the front of the house. Two more followed. Everything happened fast. Shouts. Hands raised. Mark being pushed against the wall. Sarah screaming that it was all my fault. Police separating them. Asking questions. Taking pictures. Recording the damage. Writing everything down. I sat on the couch holding my hip. I felt tired. Empty. Like a piece of me had died. One officer knelt beside me. "Mom, are you hurt? Do you need an ambulance?" I said no. But inside I knew the truth. My body might survive this. But my heart had been torn in half. As they took Mark and Sarah out in handcuffs, I looked at my son. He would not lift his eyes to meet mine. And I realized something I never wanted to understand. Sometimes a mother's love is not enough to save a grown child from the darkness he chooses. The next morning, my house felt empty in a new way. Not like the quiet I was used to, but a heavy silence filled with fear and memories of the night before. I walked through the kitchen, looking at the broken bowl and the mess on the floor. Every item seemed to whisper, "Your family tried to destroy you." I could not eat breakfast. I could not drink coffee. I just sat at the table and stared at the empty chair where Mark used to sit as a boy. Where he used to laugh. Where he used to tell me secrets. Where he used to ask me to read stories before bed. My dear friend, tell me, have you ever felt like your whole life was being rewritten in a single night? Like everything you thought you knew was gone, and there was no map to find your way back? That was me. I felt lost, confused, betrayed. But I also felt something else. A quiet spark of determination. A voice inside me whispered, "You will survive this. You will rise. You will not let this break you." I called my younger son, David. His voice was calm, like a lifeline in a storm. "Mom, I am coming over. I want to be there with you. You do not have to face this alone." I told him everything. Every detail. Every fear. Every tear I had not yet shed. David promised he would help. Not just with the police and repairs, but with my heart. With my life. In the days that followed, the police investigation revealed more than I expected. Mark had massive gambling debts. Debts he could not pay. Debts that pushed him to think about taking my money. And Sarah, she was not just following him blindly. She had planned every step. Every question about my savings. Every manipulation to make me feel guilty. Every threat about the will and the grandchildren. I realized I had been fighting not just my own family, but years of careful plotting. But I also realized something else. I was stronger than they thought. I was not a weak old woman. I was someone who had lived through loss, hardship, and betrayal. Someone who could rise above fear. The first days were hard. I stayed in my house, sleeping little. I walked carefully around broken furniture and shattered glass. I avoided thinking about Mark's hands on me, Sarah's cruel voice, and the way my trust had been twisted. But little by little, I began to take action. I worked with the police to secure the evidence. I changed all my locks. I set up cameras. I made a plan to protect myself and my home. And then I realized something important. I did not have to do this alone. I had family who truly cared. David, my younger son, who never turned his back on me. Brenda, my sister, who drove 3 hours just to hold my hand and tell me I was brave. They reminded me that even when the people who are supposed to love you hurt you, there is still hope. There is still safety. There is still life to be lived. But even with all that, my dear friend, I could not shake a feeling. A fear that they might come back. A fear that this was only the beginning. And deep down, I knew my life had to change. I could not stay in that house forever. Not while threats, debt collectors, or angry family members loomed in the shadows. I began looking for a new place. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere safe. Somewhere I could start again. Arizona came to mind. A place with warmth, open skis, and fresh air. A place far from the small town that now held too many bad memories. I spoke to David and Brenda. They agreed. It would be a fresh start. A chance to breathe. A chance to live without fear. But leaving my home was not easy. Every corner held memories. Every wall held laughter. Every room held stories of a life I had built. And yet, the thought of safety and peace outweighed nostalgia. Packing was emotional. I touched each item, remembering the hands that had held it. The kitchen tools I had cooked with for decades. The photos of Mark and David as boys. The gifts from friends long gone. And through it all, I asked myself again, why did they do this? Why did my own child turn against me? I did not have an answer. Only a truth. I could not change them. I could only protect myself and the life I still had to live. The night before leaving, I sat on the porch. I watched the stars twinkle in the quiet sky. I whispered a prayer for strength. A prayer for wisdom. A prayer that my grandchildren, Liam and Lily, would be safe and happy even if Mark and Sarah could not protect them. I made a decision. I would not live in fear anymore. I would not let betrayal define me. I would build a new life, even if it meant leaving behind the house I loved. And little did I know, my move to Arizona would be the beginning of something powerful, something that would heal my heart and, in ways I could not yet imagine, bring me closer to the family I truly loved. The drive to Arizona felt like leaving one lifetime behind. I watched the small town disappear in the rearview mirror, the houses and streets shrinking into memories. Every mile brought relief. Every mile brought fear. Because I knew that even far away, the shadows of Mark and Sarah could still reach me. David sat beside me, quiet most of the way. He did not need to say anything. His presence was enough. Brenda followed behind in her car, humming softly, like she wanted to fill the world with calm. When we arrived in Arizona, the sun was just beginning to set. Its orange and pink glow painted the desert sky. The air smelled dry but clean, a promise of a life different from the one I had left behind. We found a small house on the outskirts of a quiet suburb. It was not grand. It was not fancy. But it was mine. Safe. And for the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. The first night in the new house was strange. I could not sleep. Every creak of the floor, every whisper of wind outside reminded me of the night Mark and Sarah broke into my old home. But instead of fear, I felt determination. I set up locks, cameras, and alarms. I organized my documents and money. I even made a small emergency plan with David. I would never be caught unprepared again. And yet, even with these precautions, I could not forget my grandchildren. Liam and Lily. Two innocent souls, trapped in a family conflict they did not understand. I called the lawyer I trusted. I wanted temporary custody. I wanted them safe, away from Mark and Sarah. The process was slow and frustrating, but I reminded myself that patience was also a kind of strength. While waiting for the court decision, I explored Arizona. I walked along quiet streets, visited local cafes, and even joined a small book club. At first, everything felt foreign. The people, the accents, the rhythm of life. But slowly, I began to feel at home. Even small victories mattered. Like when a neighbor brought over a plate of cookies and smiled warmly. Or when the librarian remembered my name. Or when I finally managed to make a perfect cup of coffee in my new kitchen. Through it all, I thought of Mark and Sarah. I did not want revenge. I did not want them punished beyond the law. I wanted justice, yes. But more than that, I wanted peace. The first call from Mark came 2 weeks after I moved. His voice was soft, almost ashamed. "Mom, I am sorry." But I did not answer. I had learned that forgiveness does not mean returning to pain. Forgiveness means choosing your own life over the shadow of someone else's mistakes. And then came the news I had been waiting for. Temporary custody of Liam and Lily was granted. I could bring them to Arizona. I could protect them. I could raise them in love, not fear. The first day they arrived, I felt a mixture of joy and sorrow. They ran into my arms, laughing, crying, and hugging me tightly. I held them longer than I had ever held anyone. I whispered, "I promise I will always protect you. I promise I will keep you safe. And I will teach you to be strong, kind, and wise." Over the next weeks, we settled into a routine. School, homework, meals, and bedtime stories. I watched Liam and Lily grow calmer, happier, and more confident. The house that once felt foreign began to feel like home. The laughter in its rooms began to heal my heart. And through it all, I reflected on the lessons life had taught me. That trust can be broken. That betrayal can come from the closest people. But also, that strength can rise quietly, like a river cutting through rocks. That love, even after heartbreak, can grow stronger. That new beginnings are possible, even in the midst of chaos. But my dear friend, I must tell you, the past never fully disappears. Mark's gambling debts still lingered. Sarah's planning still had consequences. And the possibility of more conflict was always in the shadows. I could feel the tension simmering. The story was not over. And I knew that one day, Mark and Sarah would confront me again. But this time, I would be ready. Not angry. Not vengeful. But strong. Quietly, peacefully, and powerfully. And in the stillness of that desert night, I felt it. The spark of a new life. A life where I could rise above betrayal. A life where I could protect my grandchildren. A life where my heart could begin to mend. Little did I know, the coming days would test every ounce of strength I had, and teach me lessons I never imagined about courage, family, and love. Life in Arizona settled into a rhythm, but I never forgot the past. Every morning, I woke with a mixture of gratitude and caution. Gratitude for the safety around me. Caution because I knew that Mark and Sarah's actions had left scars that could appear any time. Liam and Lily were adjusting well. They laughed more. They slept better. And slowly, I could see their fear fading, replaced by trust. David often called to check on us. Sometimes he drove down just to help with homework, cook dinner, or simply sit with us. Brenda came by as often as she could, bringing warmth and encouragement. I realized that family was more than just blood. It was love. It was support. It was choosing to stay when others had left. One afternoon, while I was teaching Lily to read, my phone rang. It was the prison. Mark wanted to speak with me. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore him. Part of me wanted to hear what he had to say. I took a deep breath and answered. "Mom," he said, his voice soft and trembling. I know I hurt you. I can't take back what I did. I've been thinking about it every day. I want to make things right. If you want, I'll waive my parental rights. I don't want to hurt the children anymore." My heart ached. Not because I was angry, but because I had loved him once so deeply. And because I had seen what greed and desperation could do to someone I raised. I said quietly, "Mark, it's over. You can't undo the past. But the children, they need peace, and you have to step back for them." That day, I felt something shift. Not a return to the past. Not forgiveness in the way people think. But clarity. Control over my life. Power in protecting what truly mattered. Over the following months, small victories began to accumulate. I repaired the damage in the house. I planted flowers in the backyard, bright colors to remind us that life could still be beautiful. I celebrated Liam's first good grades in school. I cheered when Lily learned to ride her bicycle without training wheels. Each small win was like a stitch, sewing together a life that had been torn apart. But even as we flourished, I stayed vigilant. I refused to let my past dictate the present. Every day I reminded myself, the goal was peace, not revenge. One afternoon, as I walked with Liam and Lily in the small desert park near our home, I thought about everything we had endured. I thought about the night Mark and Sarah had broken into my home. I thought about the fear, the betrayal, the pain. And then I looked at my grandchildren's faces. Their smiles, their laughter, their innocence. And I realized the poetic justice was not in hurting Mark and Sarah. It was in living well. It was in raising these children in love. It was in turning heartbreak into strength. It was in finding purpose where once there was only fear. I told the children, "You are safe now. No one can take this from us. We will face life together, and we will grow stronger every day." And in that moment, I understood something truly powerful. Life does not have to be about revenge. It does not have to be about anger. It can be about quiet victories, small joys, love, family. The sun set behind the mountains. The sky turned gold and purple. I watched Liam and Lily run ahead, their laughter echoing. I breathed deeply, feeling peace I had not known for years. But I also knew the story was not completely over. Life would always bring challenges. And one day, Mark and Sarah's choices would resurface. Yet I felt ready. Stronger, wiser, and finally, peaceful. The first few weeks in Arizona passed like a mix of calm and cautious energy. Every night, I made sure the doors were locked, the alarms set, and cameras ready. Every morning, I checked my messages, my bank accounts, and my plans. I refused to be vulnerable again. And yet, in between the vigilance, there were moments of real life. Liam showing me how he had drawn a picture of our desert home. Lily insisting I help her plant a small flower garden in the backyard. David making pancakes on Saturday mornings and telling silly jokes that made us all laugh. Brenda telling stories of our childhood that made even the saddest memories feel warm. These small moments, my dear friend, were like stitches mending my heart. They reminded me that life can be beautiful again, even after betrayal. But the past always lingered. Mark's name appeared in my thoughts sometimes, and I had to remind myself he was behind bars now, and his actions had consequences. Sarah's planning would no longer reach me because I had taken control of my life. The children were safe, and that was all that mattered. One evening, as I watched Liam and Lily play in the backyard under the pink-orange sky, I felt a quiet pride. Not pride in revenge, not pride in anger, but pride in survival, pride in love, pride in the strength to rise when everything seemed lost. I whispered to myself, "I did it, I survived, I protected them, I am strong." The children ran inside to wash up for dinner, laughing and shouting. I stayed on the porch for a moment, letting the wind brush against my face. It smelled like a new beginning. It smelled like hope. And deep down, I knew that Marlene, the woman I was becoming, was someone no one could break. Not by greed. Not by fear. Not even by betrayal. Life was teaching me a lesson. True power is quiet, strong, and peaceful. It does not shout. It does not seek revenge. It simply exists. And when others try to take it, it rises again, even stronger. I smiled, thinking about the chapters of my life yet to come. The bond with my grandchildren would grow. The home we built in Arizona would be filled with laughter, love, and safety. And someday, Mark and Sarah might understand the weight of their actions. But for now, I was free. Free from fear. Free from betrayal. Free to live, love, and thrive. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in golden light, I made a quiet promise to myself. No matter what challenges lie ahead, I will face them with courage, with wisdom, and with a heart that refuses to break. This was not the end of the story, my dear friend. It was only the beginning of a life rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal. And the lessons I learned would guide me and my grandchildren through every storm yet to come. The desert night settled around us, calm and protective. And in that quiet I finally felt it, peace, strength, and a life that no one could take away. My dear friend, starting over is not as easy as people say. You think leaving the past behind will erase the pain. But the truth is, the memories follow you, quiet and heavy. When we arrived in Arizona, I thought the worst was over. I had the children, a safe home, and the love of David and Brenda. But danger is clever, my friend. And even when the storms pass, the clouds can linger. Liam and Lily were adjusting beautifully. They laughed again, slept peacefully, and even helped me unpack the last of the boxes. Their little hands and voices brought life back to a home that had been quiet for far too long. But at night, when I lay in bed, I would remember Mark's anger, Sarah's threats, the coldness in their eyes. If it was you, my friend, what would you do when someone you love tries to destroy you? Would you forgive? Would you run? Would you hide forever? I made a choice. I would not hide. I would face life with courage. And I would teach my grandchildren the same strength. The first few weeks were a balance of routine and planning. School, homework, and bedtime stories filled the days. I even joined a small community group of retirees who welcomed me warmly. But I could not forget the past, and I refused to let it define our new life. One day, a letter arrived from the lawyer handling Mark and Sarah's case. It reminded me that Mark's prison sentence would not last forever, and that he might try to contact us again. A shiver ran down my spine. I looked at Liam and Lily playing in the living room. Their laughter was so pure, so full of life. I whispered quietly to myself, I will protect them, no matter what. David suggested that we take extra precautions. Cameras, alarms, and even small safety drills with the children. I agreed. Not because I wanted to live in fear, but because protecting the children was my responsibility. But life in Arizona was not only about safety. It was about small victories, too. The desert sun warmed our mornings. Neighbors waved hello. I found a small job helping at a local library, which gave me purpose and connection. Even the children's school welcomed us, and teachers noticed their improvement. Through it all, I learned something important. Healing is not instant. It is not dramatic. It is quiet, slow, and sometimes unnoticed. It comes in small smiles, kind words, and tiny victories. One evening, I sat on the porch watching the stars. Liam and Lily ran around in the yard, chasing shadows in the soft light. David and Brenda were laughing inside. And I realized we were safe. We were alive. And we were growing stronger every day. But my dear friend, life always tests you. Mark was still in prison, and I knew his absence did not erase his influence. Sarah was still free, and her plans could extend beyond my vision. And there were still moments when fear crept in, uninvited. I reminded myself of something I had learned long ago. True strength is not in fighting others. It is in rising above them. It is in choosing love, courage, and peace, even when the world seems against you. As I watched the desert sky turn gold and pink, I made a quiet promise. I would raise these children with love, wisdom, and resilience. I would create a life where betrayal could not touch us. And I would find happiness again, even if it was different from what I once knew. But little did I know, shadows from the past were closer than I imagined. And the next challenge would test every ounce of courage, patience, and wisdom I had built. The next few weeks brought both comfort and tension. Liam and Lily were thriving in school. They made friends. They laughed at recess. They came home with stories about their day that made me smile in a way I hadn't in years. But the past never fully disappeared. Sarah, I knew, would be watching from afar. I could feel it in the letters that arrived occasionally from the lawyer. She had ways of stirring trouble, even without entering our lives directly. And Mark, well, even in prison, his words sometimes came back to haunt me. One morning, I received a call from the children's school. They were concerned about a man who had been asking questions about Liam and Lily. I felt my heart stop. It was a small suburban school in Arizona, quiet and safe, or so I thought. The thought of anyone following us, or even trying to contact the children, filled me with fear. David insisted on coming down immediately. Brenda offered to stay with the children while we handled it. I agreed, though I hated the feeling of leaving them. I knew it was necessary. When we arrived at the school, the principal explained that someone had called asking for details about the children's schedule. They did not reveal who, but the timing made it clear. This was Sarah or someone acting on her behalf. I clenched my fists quietly. Fear tried to creep in, but I pushed it away. I would not allow panic to control my life. Instead, I worked with the school to increase security measures. No one would enter without proper ID. The children would be escorted to and from class. I spoke to teachers and counselors, explaining the situation in a careful, non-alarming way. Protecting the children became my mission. Back at home, Liam and Lily sensed something was wrong. They asked questions. Why did we move here? Will anyone come to take us away? I knelt down beside them. Look at me, my loves. No one can hurt us here. We are safe. I promise you. We will face everything together. Their small hands in mine reminded me of what mattered most. Not anger toward Mark or Sarah. Not revenge. Love. Protection. Hope. In the weeks that followed, I began to notice small signs of growth in myself as well. The fear that had gripped me in the first days of Arizona slowly lifted. I joined a local senior women's group and found friends who had faced their own struggles. We shared stories, advice, and laughter. I started helping at a community library, teaching reading to children who struggled like Liam and Lily had once. And as I grew stronger, the children thrived. They learned to ride bicycles, help with chores, and even cook small meals with me. Laughter became the soundtrack of our home. But the quiet moments always reminded me, life is never simple. Even when you rise above betrayal, the past can whisper from the shadows. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the desert, I found myself thinking about Mark. Prison had changed him, but only partially. His remorse was real, yes, but his greed and anger were deep-rooted. And Sarah, she remained cunning, patient, and calculating. I realized that my challenge was not just to protect my grandchildren from physical danger. It was to shield them from emotional harm, from confusion, from the invisible chains of fear and manipulation. I whispered to myself, "You will be stronger than them. You will rise. And you will teach the children how to rise too." It was during this period that I noticed something remarkable. The children began to mirror my strength. Liam started speaking up when something didn't feel right. Lily began showing resilience and confidence beyond her age. And I realized the truth. Even in heartbreak, you can build strength in others. The desert nights in Arizona became a place of reflection. I would sit on the porch after dinner, listening to the wind whisper through the small trees. The silence was no longer empty, it was healing. It was a reminder that even after betrayal, life could flourish. But even with these victories, I knew the coming months would test us again. New challenges were on the horizon. And my strength, along with the children's, would be tested in ways I could not yet imagine. Little did I know, the next storm would not come from outside alone. Sometimes, the hardest battles are those that touch the heart, testing courage, trust, and the very soul of family. Arizona slowly became more than just a safe place. It became a home. Not the home I had left behind, full of memories and heartache, but a home full of possibilities, laughter, and hope. Every morning, I woke to the sound of birds and the warm sunlight spilling through the windows. Liam and Lily ran into the kitchen, sleepy-eyed but full of excitement, asking what we would do today. Some days were simple. We went to the park, rode bicycles, or planted flowers in the backyard. Other days, I helped at the local library or attended community events. I began to feel like a person again, not just a mother or grandmother fighting for survival. But the shadows of the past lingered. Every phone call, every letter reminded me that Mark and Sarah had left a mark on my life. And every time I heard about a suspicious person asking questions about the children, my heart would tighten in worry. One afternoon, Lily came running to me with tears in her eyes. "Grandma," she whispered, "what if Mom and Dad try to take us back?" I knelt beside her and held her small hands in mine. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "no one can hurt you here. We are safe. And no one can take you away from me. I promise." Her tears slowed, and she hugged me tightly. I realized then that protection was more than locks and alarms. It was reassurance, love, and consistency. It was showing them that even after fear and betrayal, the world could be safe. David noticed the change too. He said, "Mom, you've become stronger than I've ever seen. And the kids are thriving because of you." I smiled, but inside I knew the truth. Strength did not come from ignoring pain. It came from facing it, learning from it, and continuing despite it. Then came a small victory I will never forget. I was asked to help at a local school with a reading program. Children who struggled with words came to me, and I taught them patiently, guiding them through the letters and sentences. Some of them reminded me of Liam and Lily, and I felt proud seeing their progress. Helping these children gave me purpose beyond survival. It reminded me that life was bigger than fear and betrayal. Life was about giving, teaching, and nurturing the next generation. Evenings became a time for stories and reflection. After dinner, we would sit on the porch, watching the desert sky turn gold and purple. Liam and Lily would ask me about my childhood, about their father when he was small, and about the life we left behind. I told them carefully. Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people choose the wrong path. But love, courage, and kindness always remain. Through these conversations, I saw the children growing. They became aware of the world's challenges, but also learned resilience. They laughed, played, and even helped around the house with confidence. It was healing for all of us. But even in these small victories, I remained alert. I knew Sarah was still scheming. I knew Mark's release would eventually bring complications. And I knew life would always test us in unexpected ways. Yet, for the first time in months, I felt a sense of calm. Not because danger was gone, but because I had learned something crucial. No one can take away the life you build with love and courage. No one can erase the bonds you create with patience, protection, and wisdom. That night, as I tucked Liam and Lily into bed, I whispered a promise. No matter what comes, we will face it together. We will grow stronger. We will rise. And as I turned off the lights and closed the door to their room, I felt a spark of hope I hadn't felt in a long time. The storm of the past was behind us, and our new life, though fragile, was ours to protect, nurture, and grow. But even as I drifted to sleep that night, I could not shake a feeling that new challenges were approaching. And this time, they would test not just my strength, but the courage, wisdom, and resilience of the children I loved most in the world. The weeks passed, and life in Arizona began to feel stable, but stability can be deceptive. Even far from the town we left behind, the echoes of the past lingered quietly, like shadows waiting in corners. One afternoon, I received a call from the lawyer again. Mark had requested a phone call with Liam and Lily. My heart tightened. I knew he was expressing remorse, yes, but I also knew the potential danger of stirring confusion or fear in the children. I spoke calmly to the lawyer. No, I said firmly. They are safe. I want them to feel secure. We are not ready for any communication yet. The lawyer hesitated. But Mark insists. I interrupted gently but firmly. His insistence is not my priority. The children's safety and peace are my priority. I hung up and immediately sat down with Liam and Lily. We talked about boundaries, respect, and love. I explained in simple words that sometimes adults make mistakes, but children do not have to carry the burden. They nodded, their small hands holding mine. I realized then that my job was not just to protect their bodies, it was to shield their hearts. That same week, I noticed subtle signs that Sarah might be trying to meddle from afar. Small letters to the school, questions about schedules, even vague threats through mutual acquaintances. I refused to panic. Instead, I tightened security. I set up notifications for any letters, calls, or visits. I spoke with school administrators and neighbors, ensuring the children were protected without making them feel trapped. Through all this, David and Brenda were constant pillars. David often reminded me, "Mom, you are doing more than surviving. You are teaching them strength." And Brenda would say, "Look at what you've built. Love cannot be broken, even when betrayal exists." I began to notice a change in myself too. The fear that had gripped me in the first weeks in Arizona was fading. I felt a quiet confidence, a sense that I could handle whatever came next. Even Mark's anger, even Sarah's scheming, could not control the life I was building now. One evening, after tucking Liam and Lily into bed, I sat on the porch and reflected. The desert sky glowed with stars. The wind whispered through the trees. And I realized that true strength is not in confrontation or revenge. It is in rising above fear. I whispered a promise to myself. I will not let the past dictate our lives. I will protect the children. I will teach them love, courage, and resilience. Even as I felt this newfound power, I knew one truth clearly. Life was never going to be simple. Mark's release from prison, Sarah's cunning, and the complications of family betrayal would come. And we had to be ready. But for the first time, I felt hope. Real hope. the kind that grows quietly in the heart, even when shadows remain. As I looked up at the stars, I thought about the journey ahead, the battles we would face, the small victories we would celebrate, and the unbreakable bond we were forming, a bond stronger than fear, greed, or betrayal. Little did I know, the next challenges would not just test my strength. They would test my wisdom, patience, and ability to guide Liam and Lily through storms I could never have predicted. But for now, in that quiet Arizona night, I allowed myself to breathe, to feel love, to feel safety, to feel the beginnings of a life rebuilt on courage and hope. And I knew, deep in my heart, that no matter what came next, we would face it together. With love, with strength, and with the quiet power of a grandmother who refused to be broken. Arizona had become more than a place to hide. It had become a home, a sanctuary, a place where Liam and Lily could laugh freely without fear, and where I could finally breathe after months of pain. The weeks passed with small victories. I watched Liam ride his bike across the backyard without falling. I watched Lily help set the table for dinner, beaming with pride. David and Brenda helped us settle fully, and our small home began to feel alive, filled with warmth and love. Then one morning, a letter arrived from the prison. Mark was writing again. He apologized repeatedly. He expressed remorse. He asked questions about the children, but he also indicated he intended to continue his appeal for custody in the future. I read the letter carefully, then folded it and placed it aside. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. The children's safety and happiness came first. His feelings, his regrets, his demands, none of that mattered as much as ensuring Liam and Lily thrived. That same week, I received confirmation that Sarah's attempts to contact the school had been stopped. The administrators were helpful and supportive. The children were safe, and I felt a quiet pride. I began to notice subtle changes in the children. Liam was speaking more openly about his feelings. He no longer flinched at sudden noises or strangers. Lily had developed a sense of confidence and curiosity about the world. Together, they were learning resilience. And I realized they were teaching me resilience too. One evening, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the desert sky turn from gold to deep purple. The wind was soft, the stars glimmered, and I felt a calm I hadn't known for months. I whispered quietly, "I am strong. I am safe. I am building a life worth living. And no one can take that away." I knew there would still be challenges. Mark would be released someday. Sarah might try again. Life is never without difficulties. But I felt ready. I had discovered the quiet power of strength, patience, and love. I had built a sanctuary for my grandchildren. And I had learned that true victory is not about revenge. It is about living fully, peacefully, and courageously. As Liam and Lily ran past me, laughing and chasing fireflies in the yard, I realized something profound. The poetic justice was not in punishing Mark or Sarah. It was in rising above them. It was in creating a life of hope and love despite the betrayal. It was in teaching the next generation how to be strong, kind, and resilient. And in that moment, under the vast Arizona sky, I understood. This was just the beginning of our new life. A life built on courage, protection, and unconditional love. A life where heartbreak had been transformed into strength. My dear friend, if you have ever faced betrayal or fear, remember this. You can rise. You can protect those you love. And you can create a life of hope and happiness, even when the past seems to weigh too heavily. And as I watched my grandchildren laughing in the twilight, I felt it in every fiber of my being. We had survived. We had grown. And the future, though uncertain, was ours to shape. My dear friend, sometimes the past doesn't stay behind you. It lingers quietly, waiting for the smallest crack in your piece to slip back into your life. After months in Arizona, I had begun to feel a sense of normalcy. The children laughed again, the house was filled with warmth, and even the desert seemed to embrace us with its golden sunsets. I thought we were safe. I thought the worst was behind us. But life, I realized, has a way of testing you when you least expect it. One morning, I received a letter from the court. Mark had filed papers requesting contact with the children. Not visitation yet, but a legal inquiry that could disrupt our carefully rebuilt life. I felt my chest tighten. The fear I thought I had left behind came rushing back. David sat with me while I read the letter. "We will handle this together, Mom," he said, his voice calm but firm. "We won't let them scare us or disrupt the children's life." And he was right. I realized that courage was not the absence of fear, it was acting despite it. And protecting Liam and Lily meant staying strong, even when my heart trembled. I began preparing. I spoke to our lawyer, ensuring every step was taken to safeguard the children. I explained the situation to the school and asked for extra vigilance. I checked our home security systems twice a day. I taught Liam and Lily that sometimes adults make decisions that are confusing or unfair, but we can face them with calm and courage. Despite these challenges, life in Arizona had given us small joys that felt monumental. Liam won a science competition at school. Lily performed in her first recital, beaming with pride and confidence. I helped at the local library, teaching children to read, and each small victory reminded me of the power of patience and love. Evenings became our time to reflect. We would sit on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the mountains. The children would ask questions about the world, about right and wrong, about life. And I would answer carefully, teaching them lessons I had learned the hard way. That love is stronger than betrayal. That courage is choosing to rise when fear is present. That true power is quiet, peaceful, and unwavering. One evening, as the desert sky turned gold, I realized something important. We were no longer just surviving. We were living. And the small victories, learning to ride bikes, school awards, bedtime laughter, were the building blocks of a new life. But the shadows of Mark and Sarah were never far away. The legal request reminded me that threats can return in subtle ways. And though we had protection, both legal and practical, I knew vigilance was necessary. Still, I chose to focus on what mattered most: the children's safety, their happiness, our family bond. And in that focus, I discovered the quiet power of strength. Not the strength of anger or revenge, but the strength of love, patience, and resilience. A grandmother's strength. A protector's strength. The desert night settled around our home, calm and quiet. I watched Liam and Lily laughing under the stars, and I felt a surge of hope and determination. We had faced betrayal, fear, and uncertainty. And yet here we were, stronger, wiser, and united. I whispered to myself, "No matter what comes, we will face it together. We will rise. We will thrive. And no one can take this life from us." Little did I know, the next challenge would come not with noise or threat, but with subtle emotional tests. And it would be a reminder that even in peace, vigilance, wisdom, and love must guide every step. But I was ready. And with Liam and Lily by my side, I knew that together we could survive anything. My dear friend, even when life seems calm, danger can lurk quietly. Not in loud shouts or angry confrontations, but in whispers, plans, and subtle manipulations that try to pull you back into fear. By now, Arizona felt like home. Liam and Lily were happy, healthy, and confident. The children's laughter filled the rooms, and every corner of the house held warmth that I had worked so hard to rebuild. David and Brenda were constant sources of support. We had created a safe haven. But I could feel it. Sarah's influence had not disappeared. Her schemes were quiet, invisible to most, but I had learned to sense them over the months. Letters to the school, inquiries through mutual acquaintances, attempts to find loopholes in the legal system. Everything pointed to one truth: she had not given up. One afternoon, I received an email flagged by our lawyer. It was carefully worded, almost harmless at first glance, but it hinted at legal maneuvers to try to challenge my temporary custody of Liam and Lily. I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, the first flash of fear in weeks, but I took a deep breath and reminded myself, fear does not control me. I control my life. I gathered the children and explained in very simple terms what was happening. There are adults who make confusing decisions sometimes, I said softly. But we will always stay safe and together. We will face everything calmly, and we will rise stronger. The children nodded, trusting me fully. And in that trust, I found courage. Meanwhile, small challenges began appearing in our everyday lives. A neighbor reported suspicious people near the house. I noticed strangers asking questions about Liam and Lily at the park. Every small hint reminded me that vigilance was necessary. We installed extra cameras, strengthened locks, and updated our emergency plan. But life was not just about fear. It was also about the small wins that reminded us why we were fighting. Liam brought home a first-place ribbon in a writing competition. Lily learned to swim, laughing and proud of her accomplishment. Even mundane victories, like cooking dinner together or finishing a puzzle, felt monumental. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the desert sunset, I reflected on the lessons we had learned. Life is never free of challenges. Betrayal can come from those you love. Fear can appear when you least expect it. But I also realized something powerful. Courage is not about fighting the enemy. It is about rising above fear. It is about protecting those you love. It is about creating a life worth living, even when shadows linger. And the children were learning this too. I watched Liam confidently stand up for himself at school, and Lily comfort a friend who was afraid of failing a test. In their growth, I saw the ripple of strength that had begun with our move to Arizona. Yet the quiet threats continued. Sarah's manipulations were subtle, almost invisible to outsiders. But I knew they were meant to unsettle us, to make us doubt our peace. I refused to give her that power. Instead, I focused on planning and preparation. I strengthened our home, built trust with the community, and reinforced the children's understanding of safety and boundaries. I worked with the lawyer to ensure every legal step was secure. And I taught Liam and Lily that their courage and intelligence were tools they could use to face the world safely. My dear friend, the greatest lesson I learned during these months is this. You cannot control the schemers, the manipulators, or the past. But you can control your response. You can build a shield of love, wisdom, and courage. And that shield is stronger than any threat. As night fell over our desert home, I watched the children sleeping peacefully, their small breaths calm and even. I whispered a quiet promise to myself. No matter what Sarah or Mark attempts, we will face it together. We will rise. We will thrive. And we will protect the life we have built. Because true victory is not in revenge. True victory is in resilience, love, and the quiet strength that cannot be broken. And little did I know, the coming weeks would bring tests I had never imagined. Not just of safety, but of trust, courage, and the very heart of our family. But I felt ready, stronger than ever. And I knew that with Liam and Lily by my side, there was nothing we could not face. My dear friend, even when you feel safe, life has a way of reminding you that the past is never truly gone. It waits patiently, quietly, and sometimes suddenly it appears, testing every ounce of your courage. Arizona had become our sanctuary. The children laughed, played, and slept without fear. Our home was warm, filled with love, light, and the small victories that had built our confidence. David and Brenda were always close, helping with school, chores, and the emotional safety of the children. I felt stronger, calmer, and more prepared than ever. But then came the news I had been expecting and dreading all at once. Mark's release date was set. Soon, he would be out of prison. And while he had expressed remorse, I knew better than to trust words alone. His past greed, anger, and impulsive actions could return with him. And Sarah, she was never far behind. I immediately began preparing. Not out of fear, but out of determination. I reinforced locks, updated cameras, and reviewed our emergency plans with David and Brenda. I spoke with a lawyer to understand every legal step we could take to protect the children. I even began teaching Liam and Lily practical lessons about safety, courage, and boundaries, without scaring them. The days before Mark's release were tense. Every phone call, every letter, every small noise made me alert. But at the same time, life continued. The children thrived in school. Liam excelled in reading and math. Lily's confidence grew as she joined the local theater club. Even simple moments, like cooking dinner together or walking in the neighborhood, reminded me why we were fighting for this life. One evening, as I watched the desert sunset paint the sky gold and pink, I reflected on everything we had endured. Betrayal, threats, fear. And yet, here we were, safe, strong, and united. I realized that real strength is quiet. It does not shout or demand attention. It builds patiently, through small victories, consistent love, and preparation for challenges you cannot yet see. When the day finally arrived for Mark's release, my heart pounded, but I did not panic. I reminded myself we had prepared. We were ready. And the children were safe. I received the news through our lawyer first. Mark would be out tomorrow. Not today, but tomorrow. I gathered Liam and Lily and reassured them. No matter what happens, we are safe. We are together. And we will face everything with courage. David and Brenda stayed close that night. We reviewed every plan, checked every security measure, and discussed the possible ways Mark might try to reach us. Sleep came only in small, careful moments. Even in dreams, I could feel the tension of the days ahead. But beneath the worry, a deeper feeling grew, strength. A quiet, unshakable certainty that no matter what happened, we would survive. And not just survive, we would thrive. The next morning, I watched the sunrise over the desert mountains. The light touched the sand, the houses, and our small garden. It reminded me that life continues, even when storms approach. And in that light, I made a promise. No one, no past betrayal, no threat, no fear, can take away the life we are building. Liam and Lily ran past, laughing and chasing their shadows. I smiled, feeling hope rise like the sun. Yes, challenges were coming. Yes, threats would arrive. But the bond we shared, the lessons we had learned, and the careful preparation we had made were stronger than any storm. And as I stood there, watching the children play, I knew one undeniable truth. The greatest power does not come from revenge. It comes from love, from courage, from patience, from rising above the darkness to build a life full of light. Tomorrow would test us. Tomorrow would bring Mark back into our lives. And I would be ready, not with anger, not with fear, but with the quiet, unstoppable strength of a grandmother determined to protect her family. My dear friend, you can prepare for life's storms, you can guard your heart and your home. But when the storm finally comes, it still tests every ounce of your courage. The day Mark was released from prison, I felt a mixture of fear and calm. Fear for what could happen. Calm because I had prepared. David and Brenda were by my side, the children were safe, and our home had every precaution in place. I remember standing at the window that morning, watching the quiet streets of our Arizona neighborhood. It looked peaceful, almost ordinary. But I knew better. The ordinary can hide danger. Mark arrived in the small town that afternoon. He called, asking to meet me. I spoke with our lawyer first and declined any direct contact for the children. He was free, yes, but his actions were still unpredictable. Later that day, Sarah made her presence known. She appeared at a local store, asking questions about Liam and Lily, using a friendly smile to hide her manipulation. I noticed her quickly, and I refused to engage. But the message was clear. She was testing boundaries, trying to find a weakness. At home, I gathered Liam and Lily for a calm discussion. Sometimes, I explained, people make choices that are confusing or hurtful. They might try to scare us or make things difficult. But we have each other. And together, we are strong. The children nodded, trusting my words. It was a small victory, but a powerful one. Teaching them courage in the face of fear was as important as keeping them physically safe. David and I reviewed our plans again, checking every lock, camera, and route for emergencies. Brenda helped calm the children, distracting them with games and stories. It was exhausting, but necessary. Because threats are not always loud, they can come quietly, testing patience, trust, and wisdom. That evening, Mark attempted to contact me again, insisting that he wanted to explain himself. I listened, carefully, without anger or confrontation. I reminded him, the children's safety and peace are more important than anything else. If you want to be a part of their lives, you must respect the boundaries we have set. No threats, no anger. Only respect and calm. His voice faltered. He admitted guilt. He admitted mistakes. But even remorse can be dangerous if it is not followed by action. Sarah, meanwhile, continued her subtle schemes. I learned that she had tried to contact neighbors, asking about our routines. I contacted the police and community watch, ensuring that any suspicious activity would be monitored. Through all this, I discovered a deeper truth. Power does not come from anger or threats. Power comes from preparation, patience, and love. from protecting the innocent, from facing challenges calmly and wisely. That night, as Liam and Lily slept peacefully, I sat on the porch, watching the desert stars. I felt a quiet pride. We had faced betrayal, threats, and fear, and we were still standing. Stronger, wiser, united. I whispered to myself, no matter what Mark or Sarah do, we will rise above. We will protect the children. We will create a life full of love, strength, and safety. And in that moment, I realized the most important lesson. The storm may arrive, but it cannot break a heart that is steady, prepared, and filled with love. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Perhaps confrontations, perhaps threats. But we were ready. And we would face them, not with anger, not with fear, but with the quiet, unstoppable strength that only comes from love, courage, and wisdom. My dear friend, sometimes life does not give you quiet lessons. Sometimes it forces you into the storm, to test your courage, your patience, and your wisdom all at once. It started quietly. Sarah sent subtle messages through neighbors. Mark tried to call again. Each action was calculated, designed to unsettle me and test the boundaries I had set. But I was ready. I had prepared. I had taught Liam and Lily the meaning of courage and calm. I had strengthened our home, our routines, and our legal protections. And I had learned the most important lesson of all. True power comes from love, patience, and rising above anger. The first direct confrontation happened one afternoon. I was in the kitchen, preparing lunch, when I heard the sound of a car pulling up abruptly outside. David immediately went to the window. Two familiar faces, Mark and Sarah. Their expressions were tense, their anger thinly veiled behind forced smiles. I took a deep breath and reminded myself, fear is natural, but I will not let it control me. They knocked on the door. I opened it just enough to speak through, keeping a safe distance. Mark tried to speak first, his voice pleading. I just want to see the children, he said. Sarah added, it's only fair, they are our grandchildren. I stayed calm. I understand your feelings, I said firmly. But the children's safety and peace come first. You must respect the boundaries we have set. No threats, no anger, only respect. If you cannot do that, you will not see them. Their faces tightened. They tried to argue, to manipulate, but I stayed steady, calm, and unyielding. David stood beside me silently, a pillar of support. Brenda, waiting inside, watched attentively, ready to intervene if necessary. Mark's anger flared, but I did not respond with fear. I simply reminded him again. Threats and demands will not work. Respect the rules, protect the children's peace. That is non-negotiable. Sarah's eyes narrowed, but even she realized that our calm strength was stronger than their manipulation. They left shortly after, muttering, frustrated, but unable to break the protective barrier we had built. After the confrontation, I felt a deep sense of pride and relief. Not because I had won against them, but because I had faced fear calmly and with courage. I had protected Liam and Lily, and I had done it without anger or violence. That evening, I sat with the children, holding their hands. We are safe, I told them softly. Even when people try to scare us, we have the strength to rise above. We have love, courage, and wisdom. Nothing can take that from us. Liam smiled, Lily nodded, and I felt the power of our bond. It was stronger than any threat, any manipulation, any shadow from the past. The next few days brought a new kind of peace. Mark and Sarah did not return immediately. perhaps realizing that their intimidation tactics would not work. We focused on small victories, school achievements, art projects, and simple moments of laughter. And through it all, I noticed a profound change in myself. I was no longer afraid of Mark or Sarah. I was no longer reacting out of fear or uncertainty. I was rising, calm and powerful like the desert itself, steady, strong, and unshakable. My dear friend, this is the lesson I want you to remember. True strength is not loud. It does not shout or strike. It quietly rises above fear, protects those you love, and creates a life full of courage, wisdom, and love. As the sun set over our Arizona home, I felt a deep sense of accomplishment. We had faced betrayal, threats, and confrontation, and we had survived. Not just survived, but grown stronger. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But we were ready. And I knew in my heart that nothing, no anger, no greed, no shadow from the past, could break the family we were building together. My dear friend, sometimes life puts you to the ultimate test. Not in small ways, not in quiet whispers, but in moments that demand every ounce of courage, wisdom, and patience you have ever built. After the confrontation with Mark and Sarah, life in Arizona had seemed calmer. The children laughed again, school went well, and our home felt safe. But I knew better. Calm does not mean the storm is over. And the past has a way of returning in unexpected ways. It began with small signs, Sarah trying to manipulate neighbors, Mark asking questions through lawyers, even subtle messages meant to unsettle us. I refused to let them control our peace. Every time I felt fear creep in, I reminded myself, courage is rising above fear. Strength is protecting those you love. Love is the most powerful shield of all. Then came the ultimate challenge. Mark, desperate and frustrated, decided to confront us directly. This time, he was not alone. Sarah appeared again, confident and calculating. I saw them driving up our quiet Arizona street. The familiar surge of tension hit me, but I took a deep breath. I would not panic. I would not react out of fear. I would act with calm, love, and strategy. David and Brenda were ready. Liam and Lily were safely inside with a trusted neighbor, just in case. I prepared myself, knowing that this confrontation would test everything I had learned. When they knocked, I opened the door just enough to speak through, keeping safe distance. Mark tried to speak first, his voice pleading and angry at the same time. "I just want to see the children," he said. Sarah added, "They are ours too. You can't keep them away forever." I stayed calm, my voice steady. "I understand your feelings," I said. "But the children's safety and peace are more important than anything else. You must respect the rules. No anger, no threats. Only respect and calm. If you cannot do that, you will leave. And I will call the authorities." Their faces hardened, but even in anger, they realized they could not break the calm that surrounded me. I could see frustration in Mark's eyes and disappointment in Sarah's, but they left, this time quietly, without further confrontation. It was a small victory, but a powerful one. Not because I had won over them, but because I had protected the children, maintained peace, and acted with strength and wisdom. Afterward, I sat with Liam and Lily, holding their hands. "See," I whispered, "even when people try to scare us, we have love, courage, and wisdom. Nothing can take that away. We are safe. We are strong. And together, we rise above everything." The next weeks were filled with growth. Mark's prison sentence had ended, but his access was limited by law. Sarah's schemes slowed because they realized that threats and manipulation could not break our family bond. I focused on small victories, the children's school awards, their laughter, simple evenings together. Even the act of cooking together or walking in the neighborhood became symbols of triumph over the past. And through it all, I felt a deep sense of empowerment. I was no longer a victim of betrayal. I was a guardian. I was a grandmother who had built a fortress of love, courage, and wisdom around her family. And that fortress was stronger than any greed, manipulation, or anger. My dear friend, this is the lesson I want you to remember. True victory is not about revenge. It is not about proving someone wrong. It is about rising above fear, protecting those you love, and creating a life filled with hope, courage, and peace. As I watched Liam and Lily play in the garden under the desert sun, I felt the full weight of the journey we had taken. From heartbreak to fear, from betrayal to resilience, we had grown stronger. And the life we built, though tested again and again, was ours to cherish and protect. The storm had arrived, yes, but we had weathered it. And in doing so, we had discovered something more powerful than fear. The unstoppable, quiet strength of love, patience, and courage. Tomorrow would come with its own challenges. But we were ready, stronger than ever, and united in a bond that no one could break. My dear friend, every storm eventually passes. And sometimes, after the darkest moments, life gives you a chance to rise, rebuild, and find the peace you deserve. After months of fear, manipulation, and uncertainty, we finally reached a turning point. Mark's legal access to the children was strictly limited, and Sarah's schemes had been exposed and stopped. The authorities, our lawyer, and our community supported our family. It was no longer just about surviving, it was about thriving. With David and Brenda by my side, I applied for temporary custody of Liam and Lily. The court understood the challenges we had faced, the threats, the past abuse, and the ongoing risk. Within weeks, the papers were finalized. The children were safe. Our home was secure. And our hearts, after months of tension, began to feel truly free. Liam and Lily laughed more than ever. They played outside, did well in school, and even helped me with cooking and gardening. Every moment of joy felt like a small victory over the past. And I realized that the true triumph was not in legal documents or confrontation. It was in building a life full of love, safety, and strength. Mark wrote letters from prison expressing remorse. He admitted his mistakes and even waived certain parental rights. It was a sign of accountability, but it did not undo the past. Instead, it allowed us to focus on the future. Sarah, defeated in her manipulations, faded from our lives. Her control over us had ended, and our family could finally breathe freely. I looked around at my children, my home, and my life. I realized something profound. Victory is quiet, not loud. It is not about revenge. It is about rising above fear, betrayal, and manipulation. It is about creating a life of courage, love, and peace. I began teaching Liam and Lily every day about resilience, patience, and compassion. I told them stories of the past, but only to show lessons, not fear. They learned that even in the face of betrayal, you can rise. You can protect what matters most. And you can build a life that no one can take away. We celebrated small victories together. From birthdays and school awards to gardening projects and quiet evenings on the porch. Every smile, every laugh, every bedtime hug became a symbol of triumph. Arizona had become more than a safe place. It had become our home, a place of peace, a place of growth, a place where heartbreak had been transformed into strength. And I realized one final truth. The greatest power a person can have is not in controlling others, but in controlling themselves, in rising above fear, in protecting love, and in teaching the next generation to do the same. My dear friend, if you have faced betrayal, fear, or heartbreak, remember this. You can rise. You can protect those you love. You can build a life full of courage, strength, and peace. As Liam and Lily ran past me, laughing in the golden sunset, I felt a sense of completion. The shadows of the past no longer haunted us. They had been replaced with love, laughter, and hope. We had survived. We had grown stronger. And the future was ours to shape. If you're watching this story, remember, life will test you. Life will challenge you. But strength, love, and courage will always guide you. Rise above, protect what matters, and never lose hope. Thank you for sharing this journey with us. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And tell me where you are watching from. Your support helps more families hear stories of courage and hope. And remember, every ending is a new beginning.